양지 전부 쏠던 힘이 장하zon의 모놈 전부 납겼다. 다 그러다 감산도 실물도 돈바득지 장라게 점서 저러 저기 장검서 저것도 기십션로 일라 지금의 분소 장랑소란데 공교 또반보를 신질로 공교 또반보를 신질 공교 또반보를 신질로
The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in billions of eons. I now see it, hear it, receive it, and uphold it, and avow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. I heard that yesterday some people didn't get the full oral transmission. They said that their excuse was they were attending classes of their Khenpos and Khenmos and receiving precepts. Therefore, they didn't know that they had the class, so they didn't get it. Then it is really the responsibility of your Khenpos and Khenmos, so they can give you the oral transmission.
샴바 심미디나 담비주드와 너 교기례 연주 솜시 샹츠 생화 전부 샴베 중든데 대비정 서바 대비전노 지역소르도 중든데기 너터 냔도 데네요 중든데기 스타르 냔도 데네요 중든데기 샹츠 생화 전부 샴바라 우데 ndrkit kartarto mapamba kangan mo devjang so pablana me payan to por so shan chip to ngomber so por san gebada shamba kangan mo devjang so ba lemba me payon sum nyang lende per kirwi warto devjang so ba la chirwa gam jajo gam nierwa gam sugni ba songba gam nipa gongba gam chunle nyer mzapa chiang yotam sorwa jondande tena mamchiso qartsarpa mapamba kangan mo devjang soba lana me bayan to par zoba shanchip tam ngomber zobar san ge ba tang kangan mo devjang soba lemba me bayon sum nyang len de ber gerwa ti wa de devjang soba kang chig somba de de tamchidna yang tagba de kona devjin manurwa devjin de janda mayan no dalam lombo ka ji ka devjin soba tawlam ki ba mashi shang kong de machit par ni dembur ngaglan darkat dana rung dana mrung ji zerte der tawate togna tambi churpon ayna tena devjin soba la kuran de ba yin de rgyo tina te togna semjang nyarwa ji ngan chado semjang nyarwa ba ji ngan chado mapamba maomba ti shima ti ji ze shimi ti ngavya Tamala gerlong dang gerlong ma dang gevnin ma shangju sankhar ken cheba shungun martaq ba chanda gerwar mulum ji wongi devjing shib tamba la logbur somba chundarwa la rapt shune shukchi la chopa nyewa la nyen la dawar nyepa dang kurta la chagba kimla serna shepa kimsin bar shepa mduk ngamba mambala mupa kablo mabdewa matrakpa rig mawa yoshir la yonsa chagba chu la devra nepi ze tamchip tam charwa tangyen zinji ze la shind rang jang number rangwa rgyo dang yo la ne pa tag jandar ma jang jandar shete 대덕 메시브 전도 녜는 시바당 단오 지제르바 멈케바 대비전 녜는 케소 지제르데 녜 셈전 탐절라 셈냠바네네 특지 진보당 탑람 케베 대비정 쇼비냐 스토베 니르와 맘가바 네데 무발라 즈비 쉬르 셈천 탐절라 샹 쳬브 담바 강임바데라 대덕 카지 근더끝 강 냥투르 남디 송범 도르데 대덕 샹칩 생화 남기 플라버 맙샤고 대덕 냠버 맙샤고 너는 덕적 추 마인데 너는 냥투 담바 인게 대라 샹칩 생화 남기 플라버 맙샤고 랑상제 남락 송범 도르데 대덕 라 샹칩 생화 남기 플라버 맙샤고 대덕 냠버 맙샤고 대덕는 덕적 추 마인데 너는 랑상제 담바 인게 대라 샹칩 생화 남기 플라버 맙샤고 지 mafshago jizerwa tam jongwa mapamba ngana thar namla chuftande nge muba chirtawa jindo tul to devjindo nge na khlo namdang nojin namdang thamayin namdang khardang namdang magam chir namdang tushi chembor namdang trizar namdang mala 머남라 추탄데 니 무바 찌르타 전도더도 마밤바 안 심심 남기 돈도 쉐유셔도 쪽지 직든지 감건고 홍고 심을니던 로장데요 무바 찌르타 전도 심심 남라 추르돈나 대는 상집 생활 킨체바 상집 생활 물고도 상집 생활을 끌어안데 바 르진더마와 투바뇽와 때도 니 상집은 기랍도 쉬와 마연바 ndlaga nisar marte ndlano shanchib senhwa flabra sha ndlano shanchib senhwa flabra msha wo jizerde sem di devjan shabalar karan devso churpongo gendan mato dedak lijig bana shini nyara namsir keverin gerde dedak der karwa mambo da karwa gyapchak mambo dene tarwa tobarte yang te da guru rigsir keverin gero yang kanga tse gyalam na shanchib longtan tobar gerwa na yang nigme ngi di na longtan ba tobar gerwa yente huerna tarta nga yin rong jangwe di ji nigmi tse shanchib ngombar zogbar sang gebar tawo go te da tar nyambagam shepagam yi chibe semba te da jangdar tar te dugbo chokbo la mube roba testawa nyeton robarin gyo ro. 今天 还有2个传承
Well, today I'm going to give you 2 other oral transmissions because we are going to practice Yamataka recently,
还有那个聚光符
as well as Marichi Bodhisattva Sadhana. I think I have these 2 texts over here. Can you find it? You have to turn on your phone to find it.
야만다 그시와 상제 주동 총조랍 샹츠와르도 캬슴제 랑전 돈 랍접시 샹집 셈나 케프르게 셈신 데던 단저지 등을 건동 자르슈 데던 스탁든 맘저 추금 냠니 스토브르 쇼 지바 마팜베 소 아르톤니데 고스르 nganle 까치 그 라니드 신치 시포 금도나 자르치 셔니 도르지 베춘 오연 특거는 등집자 초츠르 건던 또추치르는 조 반니 마해 잠닌다 노르트병 자네 작능 mem순 독스른 즉 오노시더 톰쪽 쳄수 담치듯 메홍 위직 특거는 여탄 홍 흥금창 코로 고즈르 초드 이 잡가 차르쳐도 초소 니스톱건 디네랑 좀 초레 남게르정 도르지었음 경우좀 토버 겨르 음시저우저 다나나 서라샤롱 나샤야 톰바야 홍홍 팟팟 수하 흥ገብ김 창와 니르저바 마양 당전 담바이 타르버 러건게로 돈 게르자라소 정게르나 삼주르 감비 자당 그 타르버 러건게로 돈마자 dāgā samjūr ngāmbā yī, dāgā samjūr ngāmbā yī, dāngā gātāng nō pīw gāg, yāman dākīm tārtōp kī zirtī nōn chāng lōgyur jī jī yāng, shā gōr mālōng zhāwō gōgbā dāng, sāt dāng, chōm dāng, chōm sōng tāng tsam jōng, shāng zhīgir dāb chīg chīg bā cīv gyālā, gyāb chīg tō, dāyī rōr dēi rīksir chūrdēr gē chibdāg zhālir namgirba hua wā chīmbū chāgringag nō gāpōng nāgbō ndōbzhib nā chōglir namgir imā hō sāma yā gyā gyā mangā lam.
So that was the Yamataka Sadhana's oral transmission.
wuzir jamana lhamo wuzir jamala shum tsalo shumzir duti dudra chemo janji mutbar nambran joma nimardavi dondon roja chitrin jamsum sambar turma tillak surab tapa tsamdi jayi honum nambar chum shi satan yerdan charmo shir chole namgir ngutrib surju umarzami suha umarzami suha 关机
Alrighty, you can turn off your phone.
哎呀，那个好像他们已经通知了吧？
I think you probably already received the announcements. It is to dispel the obstacles, not great obstacles, but this is really a tradition that's passed down from Ponso Rinpoche. We usually would practice Yamataka as well as so that was the mantra. You should chant it for 10,000 times, as well as Marichi Bodhisattva 20,000 times, as well as the mantra of Medicine Buddha and longevity mantra. Usually when we practice these mantras and sadhanas, we used to practice quite a bit, but recently, in the past few years, we haven't been practicing it very much. So I really encourage you to practice as much as you can. We will resume our class next Monday and Tuesday on this sutra.
接下来我们就讲一下昨天，就是这部经呢，应该说这个。
So in terms of this sutra, it is not a very famous or well-known sutra in even Tibet. Many great masters did not give teachings on this. Only Ponso Rinpoche had given teachings on this sutra. Similarly, in the mainland China area, the masters of the past or the masters of the recent times, not so many of them had given teachings on this sutra. Therefore, I think because this sutra was taught by Ponso Rinpoche, it is of the most supreme and probably have lots of the secret meanings from Ponso Rinpoche. Therefore, I think we should study it. And one of the sacred meanings, I think, it is in order to be reborn in the Pure Land, we have to attain the pure liberation. Therefore, we have to distance ourselves from the misdeed of abandoning the Dharma, abandoning the truth. And over here in this sutra, it talks about what is abandoning the Dharma, what is considered as the misdeed. So we must have done the misdeed of abandoning the Dharma or slandering the Buddha, slandering the Sangha, and all of those are considered as abandoning of the misdeed of abandoning the Dharma, abandoning the truth. Therefore, we have to confess. So that is one of our main goal of studying the sutra. On one hand, we have to understand the skillful means and teachings given by the Buddha to the four groups of disciples. On the other, we have to watch ourselves and we have to be more aware and try not to create misdeeds of abandoning the Dharma, because it is quite a grave misdeed. And if we don't confess the misdeeds that we've done in this lifetime, then when the impermanence dawns and when we die, we will definitely be reborn in the three lower realms. Therefore, we have to confess diligently and vow to never make any of the misdeeds of abandoning Dharma. This is quite important. There are the two sutras I studied. In fact, we studied with Ponzo Rinpoche at that time. One is the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention, and the other one is the one that we're going to talk about, which is the sutra requested by Maitreya. And after these two sutras, I think we will be more aware and we will be paying more attention of not committing in the misdeed of abandoning the Dharma. I remember that after studying the Sutra of 100 Karmic Stories, we stopped giving others nicknames, and we are very aware of not using the spiritual offerings from the disciples frivolously. So all of those are the teachings given by Ponzo Rinpoche and with different meanings. This time, I think not many people are studying this, but I hope later on you can also give the teachings to people who have connection to you, and eventually this kind of connection will be able to blossom, and you will be and the sutra will be spreaded like the carpet of flowers in the spring. So I think recently some of the changes could be very positive. My website has been shut down, and after that everything's been very quiet, and now I have time to proofread and edit the books that I wrote and I translated before. I'm not sure if those are going to be of any use, but this is definitely, all of those are part of my life, including the teachings I'm giving right now. Everyone use their life in a different way, use their time in a different way. Lots of people would spend a lot of time on their projects, on their development of software, and on their different work. So everyone have different contribution. Everyone have different work that they will leave behind for other people. To me, I think what I leave behind is that other than the architectures and all the construction sites that I leave behind, as well as the management of Larungar I leave behind, the majority of my time are used to translation and giving teachings of the Dharma. With the diligence of some practitioners, fellow practitioners, lots of the teachings are now transcribed into words. Maybe those words are useful, maybe not. But anyhow, those are the accumulation of the wealth of my spiritual wealth, at least the accumulation of my personal dualistic thoughts. You can say that. Master Xingyun's books are in a full collection of 360 books, volumes. And when people ask me if I can also make a collection of all of my translations as well as my teachings. At the beginning, I felt it was not necessary because the translations are the translations of the Vajra language of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and in terms of the teachings, part of them are from my dualistic thoughts. Maybe it is not useful. But after some thinking, I thought, well, those are accumulation of my decades of work. So it could be a part of dependent origination, and that is why we started this project. So if there's not much obstacle, slowly those books will begin to get publicized. So nowadays, I don't really give lots of teachings on internet. I don't have lots of books that's in print, but we'll follow will follow the karmic connections, will follow the dependent origination, and maybe we had lots of those teachings and books available, but slowly it is then decreased. Later on, if it is possible and if it is necessary, there could be more and maybe not. That's how it is right now. I think let it be giving teachings or the so-called propagating the Dharma. We should constantly follow the environment, follow the circumstances, follow the whole dependent origination. This is how life should be, because many people would probably imagine that their life would be beautiful and be perfect, would be successful, but life is not solid. It is not unchanging. Therefore, maybe in the first half of the year, you prefer to do certain things, and in the second half of the year, you like to do some other things. So everyone have their different choices. This time, I wanted to give teachings on the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of the Total Retention, and I've given some teachings from last class. In terms of one particular explanation, last class we talked about how the Buddha stretched and yarned. I checked into Dharma Raksha's translation, and after comparison, apparently his translation is even more difficult than this particular translation in Chinese. And that version also says yarning or stretching. It has another, according to the Lotus Sutra, that particular use of the Chinese term also have the meaning of the lion's stretch, maybe has some connotation of yarning as well. For example, when the Buddha appeared to have yarns and stretches and was about to pass into parinirvana. That was the word that's used. Some Dharma teacher would say that, oh, the Buddha was old and nobody was around, and what a sad scene. But according to the sutra's point of view, the flesh body of the Buddha does not appear to have any wrinkles and gray hair or loss of teeth. All of these kinds of appearances of aging do not appear, except that it was shown to the sentient beings to demonstrate impermanence, and in order to demonstrate impermanence, the Buddha passed into parinirvana. So over here, the stretching or yarning could be appropriate, because over here and according to the Lotus Sutra, they all use that particular word. So I'd like to make a note of that. And previously, we've already studied that if one were to chant to uphold this sutra, then that person will not fall into the three lower realms. In the Chinese version, in that translation, it is not too obvious, but in the Tibetan translation, it is very obvious that such person will not fall into the three lower realms. Therefore, if you were to chant and if you were to propagate this teaching, you will not fall into the three lower realms. In the Tibetan language also, it says that the Buddha told Maitreya Bodhisattva, saying that this sutra is the sutra that you should uphold and you should compile, and Maitreya Bodhisattva agreed. So in the Tibetan version, there is such a passage in the middle. Let's now get into the actual sutra. It says that, then the world-honored one asked Maitreya Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, the great Bodhisattva, saying that, Ajita, from the night I attained Buddhahood to the time when I will enter the nirvana without remnant, the parinirvana. In fact, it points out that at the time of the Buddha's birth, there's a star that arose. All the way from that time till the time the Buddha passed into parinirvana, at night underneath the sala tree, all the way between those times. So it says that Jita, from the night I attained Buddhahood to the time when I will enter the parinirvana, are there evil karmas arising from the oversights in what has been done, spoken, thought of, and pondered by the Buddha's body, voice, and mind? So the Buddha asked, in order to demonstrate the Buddha's merit and pure qualities, he asked Maitreya Bodhisattva. In fact, the Buddha must know this already, but in order to ask Maitreya Bodhisattva, he asked this question so that Maitreya Bodhisattva will be able to tell everyone through his wisdom and praise the Buddha's unsurpassed qualities. Maitreya Bodhisattva Mahasattva replied saying, "No, world-honored one." So he's very certain, saying that no, there is no oversights in the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. Just like the Shastra of Pramana, where it says that the Buddha does not have any karma and causes of greed, anger, and ignorance. Therefore, he definitely does not make any negative karma and will not create any faults that's related to this. And it says that the Buddha's speech, body, speech, and mind are fully for the benefit of sentient beings. There is nothing that is not beneficial, that is not wholesome about the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. Therefore, the Buddha does not need to protect. And for that reason, we should prostrate to the Buddha. So that is very different than what we are. We have lots of negative deeds of our body, speech, and mind, and the root of such is selfishness, self-centeredness, and for that self-centeredness, we created lots of negative karma. Therefore, we have to protect ourselves with the right mindfulness and right view. But the Buddha is different because the reason for the Buddha to reside in this world is fully to benefit the sentient beings. And therefore, he does not create any negative deeds, does not create negative karma. Therefore, he doesn't need to protect himself. And why do we need to protect ourselves? Why do we need to protect our body, speech, and mind? It is because it's very easy for us to lose the right mindfulness and to break our vows and to continue to practice self-centered misdeeds. So over here, Maitreya Bodhisattva said that the Buddha will not and did not create any negative deeds in front of the whole assembly. To demonstrate the unusual, the unsurpassed noble qualities that transcends all the worldly beings. And then the Buddha said, Maitreya, as you say, from the time of my attainment of Bodhi to the time of my parinirvana, what I have said in this interval is all true, never false. Over here, the Buddha said that indeed, Ajita, indeed, Maitreya, just as you said, all the way from I attained the Bodhi from the Vajra seat in India till the very end of entering into parinirvana, whatever I've said was all true, was never false. This is what Buddha said himself. Some people may say that why would the Buddha say that he never lied? What does that mean? In fact, it is to help the sentient beings, the assembly, to generate faith. In some circumstances, it's quite necessary to point it out, such as Ponto Rinpoche used to say that, well, when you finish chanting 1 million Buddha's name, you will definitely be reborn in the Pure Land. 1 million Amitabha's name, and I will definitely not lie to you, and I do not need to lie to all of you. So that really demonstrates how he's very confident in that. Similarly, the worldly teachers would also do that. When they have confidence, they will confidently and very decisively tell the others that I will not lie about this to you, because they have no doubts about that. Therefore, we can see that the Buddha in this world, he definitely speaks of the truth. He speaks of no lies, and he speaks according to the truth, according to the situation, and whatever he speaks is of the truth. According to the Sutra of Unsullied Woman who makes offering, where it says that even the water can be completely drained, and all the fire can be extinguished, but the Buddha would speak of the truth that would never change. So what it says is that even if the fire of the whole world can be extinguished, all the water, river, from the lake, and all the water, even the ocean, can be drained. But the Buddha speaks only the truth. Because the Buddha speaks of the truth, he holds to the truth, and his speech is reliable, and he does not deceive. This is stated in the Sutra. Another Sutra, I believe I quoted from the Sutra, from Samadhi Raja Sutra, there is a teaching where it says that even if all the stars fell off from the space, even if all the earth, ocean, cities are all destroyed, even if the space has turned into substantial matter, the Buddha's speech is still of the truth. This is a teaching that is often quoted by the great masters in Tibet. Over here, it talks about this hypothesis and use these hypotheses as a metaphor. Even if the stars fall off from the space, can they all fall from the space? It won't happen at that time. And the ocean and the cities destroyed on this earth, temporarily speaking, it is not happening at this moment. It doesn't look very possible at this point. And even if all the space has turned into substantial matter, it has turned into solid existence, is it possible? It is not. But over here it says that even if all of those happens, the Buddha will still speak of the truth. The Buddha will not deceive. So we have to develop the faith in the Buddha's words. Faith is indeed very important. Without faith, you are only, if you were to only use your dualistic thoughts to make decisions and to decide if the guru, if the master said something wrong, if someone else says something wrong, then this is rather quite foolish, because without detailed investigation, without the thorough studies and foundations, without studying the pramana, it's very difficult for you to come to a correct conclusion. Therefore, without studying of the Buddhist logic, if you never study those philosophies, we can still accept those teachings with our faith. But if once you develop more profound wisdom, you can start looking into the teachings of the Buddha. You can look through the sutras after sutras in the Tripitaka, and then at the end, you will come to a conclusion yourself, and you'll be able to understand that all the teachings of the Buddha are true. According to the Buddhist calendar, the Buddha appeared in this world 2,564 years ago, and all of his teachings are now written into words, but all the teachings are still so vivid and so lively, so applicable. So when we look at all the teachings with our wisdom, we definitely would develop this heartfelt confidence as well as understanding with great certainty. This kind of faith is really important. This is the faith that is not going to retrogress. But nowadays, what I see is that people change very quickly. Maybe they would say that they will go here today, but then they would go there tomorrow. They would say something today, they would do something tomorrow. That only means that that person have not developed that certainty yet. They only follow whatever other people whatever other people do, and then it's not a very good action, because whenever anything changes from any condition changes from the external phenomena, then their actions would change. That is not very good. Throughout the study, I think we definitely have to study more, and we have to study with more depth and build better foundations. This is really important. You have to look again and again at your own mind stream and question yourself, how is my faith? How is my faith to the Buddha? How is my faith to the Three Jewels? Is it superficial or is it heartfelt faith? Is it solid? Is it sturdy? So at that time, you can definitely look at yourself and you can grade yourself in terms of your own faith. Well, if you come to the conclusions thinking that after studying for so many years, at least my faith towards the Buddha will never change, and then I think you're very successful and devoted Buddhist. In fact, not only Buddhist practitioners, I think other religious practitioners would also say the same thing, except maybe the descriptions or the way that is described is a little bit different. But I think it's fine for you to look at the Buddha's speech. In fact, the Buddha said that let you be the monastic or lay practitioner, you should look at my speech. You should analyze my speech just like how the gold needs to be refined after 16 times. And then you should accept my speech in the same way. Do not accept my speech just because you revere and admire me. In fact, this kind of teachings are very different than those of the other religions. That is why over here it shows that, or it says that the Buddha is the one who speaks of the truth. The Buddha continued to say that if there are fools who failing to understand that the Tathagata's words are skillful tools, what it means over here, skillful tools, refers to the relative, the ultimate, the different various ways of the teachings. According to the Tibetan version, it is more obvious to say that, or there's a connotation of the meaning or the hidden meaning, the innermost meaning of the Buddha's teaching. In fact, the Tathagata's teaching to the sentient beings are different because the Tathagatas would give teachings to different sentient beings with different capacities, rather than giving the same teachings to everybody. So in the turning the Dharma wheel, there's the beginning, the middle, and the end, and there are different teachings. But the foolish ones do not understand it. They would judge that this Dharma is not this way, this Dharma is not this way, this Dharma is this way. They would come to swift conclusions, but they do not understand that the Tathagata's Dharma is given to different beings with different capacities, and there's hidden meanings, lots of innermost deep meanings inside the Tathagata's teachings. And without understanding all those reasons, without understanding the innermost meanings of the Tathagata's teachings, they would come to rushed conclusions saying that this Dharma is right and that one is wrong. We can see that some of the teachings of the Tathagata says that I exist, and some says I do not exist, the self exists or self do not exist. Some teaching says that the Buddha nature is empty. Some says that it's permanent. So are those all contradictive? If you were to come to conclusions, then that means such people really don't understand the hidden meaning of the Tathagata. Just like how parents would guide their children when the child is still young, the parents would say that, oh, this is the best toy that you can play with. But with the growth, with the time passing and the child getting older, the parent would say that, well, maybe I'll get you another toy, because they would get less interested in the toys they had before, or clothing or other things. So is it really contradictive if the parents would say that? In fact, it is not, because the parents know their children the best, and then all the teachings and all the everything that they provide to the children would be of the most useful. So similarly, the Buddha would give different teachings to different people with different capacity or at different stages. So the foolish ones are the ones who do not understand the innermost teachings given by the Buddha. They would say that, oh, this is right, but that Dharma teaching is wrong. But all of those are completely based on your dualistic thoughts. Some people nowadays, they would say that you cannot practice Kshitigarbha Sutra at night, otherwise all the ghosts would come to you. Some would say that you cannot practice Shrangama Sutra because it talks about lots of the Mara's deeds, and then you're creating negative karma for yourself. Or you cannot chant the Medicine Buddha Sutra, otherwise you'll get ill. All of those are completely made up by people's imagination, and then they started spreading that rumor to the others. And this is indeed slandering the Dharma, slandering the Buddha, because without any evidence, without any true understanding, people would say this out of their dualistic mind, and then at the end you can only suffer by yourself. There's no one else who can take the suffering away. So the innermost teaching of the Buddha, of the gurus, if you don't understand them, it is the best. If it would be the best if you don't make any judgment or give any criticism. According to Sakya Pandita, he said that it would be the best to speak less. So for in this way, if you can speak less, it would be the best. Otherwise, maybe it seems that you're sharing or you're trying to guide the others. But if a foolish one is trying to guide the others, it is really for them to continuously to generate negative dharma, and then the result of such is slandering the Dharma, slandering the Buddha, slandering the noble bodhisattvas, and the end result is to be reborn in hell realm, which is quite scary. Throughout the teaching, during the Dharma teaching, I believe we have to have wisdom, especially the teachers. If you don't have wisdom, it would be the best not to give teachings. So when the Dharma teachers are giving teachings, you have to keep in mind to be of the right mindfulness. Otherwise, if you're the one who thinks that you're perfectly correct and you're full of confidence, but if the audience have lots of dualistic mind, and then maybe some of the Dharma are not of good use to them. So you have to be very careful. So to continue, the Buddha then said that Ajita, after my parinirvana, if the world of the five turbidities or of the five degenerations among bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and upasikas, there are those who are not bodhisattvas but claim to be bodhisattvas. They are actually non-Buddhists. Nowadays, there are a lot of people who would pretend that they are tokus, they are of the great masters. They are graduates from the institutes. They are so and so reincarnation of so and so monasteries, and they can even write their autobiography or even spend money to hire people to write autobiographies for them, and started to propagate themselves online, saying that they are bodhisattvas, they're dakinis, they're the reincarnation of great bodhisattva mahasattvas, and saying that they can remember their previous life, and they remember their earliest birth, and they can remember all of the early birth, and they remember all the supreme connections with you. In fact, by making all of these things up and speak it out and making this kind of propagation is quite horrid. The result of such is quite horrid. The Buddha made predictions for the degenerated, for the sentient beings of degenerated age. He said that the age of five degenerations, out of which the first degeneration is degeneration of lifespan. That means the sentient beings would, nowadays when we look at ourselves, we don't have the lifespan of over 100. If someone's over 100 years old, people would feel surprised, and lots of the journalists would also run there and take pictures. So that is the degeneration of lifespan. And the people after reaching the age of 50 or 60 years old, I think they really have to consider what if they get ill, or if they get if they're going to die very soon. So I think we have to generate a sense of impermanence of life. And then the next one is degeneration of experience, or degeneration of all kinds of things, such as personality. And people nowadays, they don't practice the virtuous Dharma, rather they have lots of negative deeds and negative karmic retributions, and people are very good at creating negative things. They're professionals in such a way, so to speak. And degeneration of disturbing emotions, of kleshas. Nowadays, the sentient beings have grave kleshas, not regular afflictions, but rather quite strong afflictions of anger, of greed, of ignorance. And then the fourth one is degeneration of views, treating the things that's unreal as real, seeing the truth as a mistake. For example, whenever we hear the teachings of karma, of the virtuous and vice deeds and karma, they do not believe it. So they have such bad view. But when it comes to entertainment, they have such profound view somehow. But they have no understanding, or they have no interest in developing the view in emptiness and impermanence, and all of those are very superficial. So that is degeneration of view. When the favorable conditions are, the last one is degeneration of time. So that is during the time when warfare, famine, and pandemic calamities all happen at the same time. So when those kind of conditions would mature, then that's that's the time when it is completely degenerated. And the Buddha prophesied that there will be a time, there will be a time that has all the 5 kinds of degenerations, and that is the Dark Age. So during that kind of Dark Age, I think over here we're not bad, and we still have people who still wear robes, and lots of the lay practitioners are the ones who seek for liberation. So comparably speaking, we're doing well. But in terms of the whole world, let it be from the phenomenal world or from the material, from the sentient, from the inner spiritual world, people's ideas and education and all the different kinds of aspects. In fact, it doesn't look very optimistic. The warfare and sickness as well as famine that happens from every place. Even if there's no warfare in their country, there are people who constantly have warfare at their homes, Cold War and Hot War. And there are people nowadays among the practitioners, and they would have different conflicts as well. I definitely see that the sentient beings in this age are quite pitiful. Some people initially came to Larungar, their goal was to practice, but then later, maybe because of conflicts that they had with fellow practitioners or with the Dharma teachers, they started to slander the others, and then they have to be dispelled from here. And all different kinds of things would happen. And it's really not really to blame you. It is because the sentient beings nowadays definitely have too much of afflictions. It is because of the degeneration of view. It is the time of degeneration of view. Just like when there are beings in the early times, even if they practice a little bit, right away they would get arhathood, they would get bodhisattva, they would attain the first bhumi. And then, but nowadays, even if we try to chant mantras as much as we can, and then we would fall asleep, we would doze off. Sometimes it seems that we finish all the numbers, but really, let's look at all the qualities of our chanting. Initially, I really wanted to take 7 days to practice in retreat, in strict retreat. However, I practiced everything and I made all my decisions. I felt that I can definitely do it. And in the morning, I prepared all the cowdowns to burn as well as the wood so that I can burn my furnace. And in order to avoid disturbance, I posted on my Weibo saying that I'm going to be in retreat. But anew, I received this notification saying that I have to go and attend a meeting that's going to last for a few days. So all of a sudden, everything just changed. Even if I wanted to do something virtuous, but since I'm in this world, I'm really not in my own control. So we can see that the sentient beings living in this degenerated age is indeed quite pitiful. Over here it says that the beings in this degenerated age, they themselves, they're not bodhisattvas, but they say that they're bodhisattvas. And it is that the reason of such is that they probably had been heretics, and they maybe because they made offering to the Buddha, and now in this lifetime they can get ordained, they can become monastics. In Tibetan language, over here it says in the previous lives. So some people in the previous lives, maybe they had engaged in such virtuous deeds. That's how how they can get they can become monastics. So such kind of bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, upasikas, some of those people would call themselves bodhisattvas. Maybe these kind of people, they were heretics and they made offerings, and for such reason, for such kind of connection, that's why they would do so. The other day, I saw there were a few monastics. It seems that they're tourists, but I think I'm really observant. I don't need a long time to observe people. I can see their actions and their practice right away. People usually say that you understand people after knowing them for a while, but I see people's mind even in an instant. So there are monastics who claim to be bodhisattvas, but they are actually non-Buddhists because they in their past lives had made offering to the Buddha and made their resolve. They have been able to enter the Buddha's order, renounce family life. Wherever they have gone, they have sought fame, benefits, and worship from their kinfolks and friends. They have scrupulously engaged in impure activities and abandoned their faith. In terms of these kinds of impure activities, including smoking, drinking, all of those kind of impure activities that we practice with our body, mind, and speech. Ponzo Rinpoche made this rule over here, saying that if monastics over here smokes or drinks, they can no longer stay in Larangar. They have to be expelled. They have to leave here. Earlier, a bit earlier, I went to visit a few other monasteries, and their regulations were that if they were to smoke on the street or drink, then they were to be fined for $200. But for the second drinking and smoking, $300, and for the third time, they will be expelled. Anyhow, it's very difficult for me to witness monastics smoking and drinking. So, to continue, it says that they have not restrained themselves from evil acts, they have not subjugated their greed for benefits and worship as for Dharma doors and what will produce enduring samadhi. They have stayed far away from them and have had no knowledge of them. So, these kind of people, they have no understanding of the Dharma, no knowledge of the Dharma, nothing at all. They do not understand samadhi, which means that they do not understand the samadhi, they do not practice vipassana they do not practice the vipassana which could lead to the understanding of all phenomena, to come to the understanding or realization of the truth of phenomena. They do not understand the samadhi meditation. And for these kind of so-called Buddhists, but non-Buddhists, they practice lots of non-virtue, but they cannot practice in retreat even for 2 days. If you were to ask them to read Madhyamika or Buddhist logic, they won't be able to finish studying it. They have very superficial wisdom. They don't want to delve into the wisdom. And then says that for the sake of their kinfolk, for the sake of their family members and friends, they have falsely claimed their knowledge and understanding. Standing in flattery and deception, their mouths have spoken contradictory words, and their bodies have performed contradictory acts. So there are people who would say that they have miraculous powers, and they would then use those kind of words and try to manipulate you by saying that, well, see, I am a great enlightened one, and if you were to make offering to me, so and so, that's what they would do. So they would deceive people with these kind of words. Early on, I heard someone went to get predictions, and according to the prediction, that person said that you have to offer me a car, and if you were to offer me a car, all of your obstacles will be dispelled. But some practitioners are really foolish. They would believe it and then make offering, and then later on maybe they heard something, and then for some reason they started to pursue they started to sue the other person for such a result. Sometimes the monastics, if their actions are not proper, then on top of that, if some foolish Buddhist practitioners would follow them, lots of the non-proper, the not so appropriate things would be practiced among them. So I think the Buddhist practitioners definitely should develop a capacity or capability of looking at or judging for yourself who the proper or who the virtuous teacher would be, so that they won't fall into traps like such. Nowadays, in the degenerated age, lots of the fake gurus, in fact, are quite popular somehow, especially in China mainland. I think nowadays it's getting a little bit better. Recently, for a little while over here, we tried to propagate the teaching of how to rely on teachers, the proper ways of relying on teachers, and the proper ways of observing teachers before relying on them. And maybe because of our propagation of giving teachings and promoting for wisdom to observe who the right teachers are, I think there are much less of those fake teachers are on the market. This is quite necessary. This is very necessary to do so, because to encounter the Dharma is very difficult. And once encountering the Dharma, we have to try to find the right teacher. Otherwise, if you were to find someone who is not genuine, then your whole life is ruined. Therefore, I strongly suggest all of our monastic fellow practitioners do not wear your monastic robes and manipulate the others. As monastics, we have to protect the others' confidence in their faith. Another aspect is that there are people who have performed contradictory acts. I heard recently that there are monastics who practice lots of contradictory acts in large cities. All kinds of strange actions. According to the Sutra, it says that do not become the thieves who wears the Shramana's robes as Buddhists. So do not become that kind of thieves who pretend to be Shramanas. We have to protect the others' hearts and mind. Otherwise, in the dark age, as the Buddha predicted that in the future there are people who are going to dress up as the monastics but use all kinds of ways to lie and deceive to the sentient beings. That is indeed really horrifying. To continue, the Buddha said that Ajita in my Bodhi way, all sentient beings are equal and embracing my great compassion. The Buddha, in fact, has great compassion with great equanimity. And the Buddha, while using skillful means, I never lose right mindfulness. The Buddha does not have any bias. The Buddha does not have any preference. The Buddha would liberate all sentient beings. His compassion is like the sun that would shine on everything and everyone. Unless, of course, if your heart is completely closed, then there's no way for you to receive the sunlight of great compassion of the Buddha. But other than that, if you have faith, if you have Buddha nature, slowly and slowly, with the blessings of the Buddha, you will definitely be able to enter the path of liberation. According to Vinaya Sutra, it says that even if the ocean has completely disappeared, but the Buddha's time of liberating sentient beings do not expire, do not end. Maybe the Buddha appeared to enter into parinirvana, but indeed the Buddha's compassion and wisdom does not disappear, does not go hidden. This is how it is stated in the Sutra. It says that the Dharma does not disappear and the Buddha does not enter parinirvana. So the Tathagata abiding peacefully in his unequaled power. So what is that kind of power? What is the Tathagata like? Just as we studied earlier, it says that the Buddha never loses his right mindfulness and he uses skillful means and he does not forget, he does not let go of all the sentient beings. It is not like that. The Tathagata does not do those things at all. And the Buddha gives the teaching or expounds the Dharma hindrance-free. Whenever we give teachings of the Dharma, we have lots of hindrances. For example, when I give teachings, there are a group of people who are extremely happy about my teaching, and then, of course, a group of people who are quite angry about my teaching. But the Buddha is not like that at all. The Buddha would give different teachings to different sentient beings. Whenever you have time, I strongly encourage you to read the Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra, where it talked about a lot of the skillful means of the Buddha, where the Buddha would use different types of language. For example, some of the sentient beings are liberated by the loving language, loving speech, and some of the sentient beings are liberated by esoteric practices, and some of them are liberated by metaphors, and some by spiritual powers, and some by hearing the Dharma teachings, genuine Dharma teachings. The Buddha would expound the teaching of parting from greed to the ones who have lots of greed, and parting from anger to the ones who have lots of aggression. Also, for example, to Devadatta, who seeks lots of fame, the Buddha gave teaching accordingly, and for Shariputra, who is ranked who's foremost of wisdom, the Buddha would give him teachings of wisdom. So that's the kind of different teachings the Buddha would give to different sentient beings with different capacities. Whenever we give teachings, we need to know how people feel and what would be the most appropriate for that group of people. This is really quite necessary. I told you many times that whenever we go to different places, different countries, the most key point to know beforehand is that what they care the most, what is their main affliction, and what they need the most, what's the biggest problems they have. So we need to learn from the Buddha. I think 9:15, that's my goal. When you when I reach that time, you can tell me
他
I
这里
should
说是
stop
佛陀
teaching.
子确实是这个，他就具有这样的这个定力啊。
Indeed,
然后呢，就是说法
the
主义
Buddha
呢
has such
障碍
great
我们
power,
也很希望
and
就是变成
he
这
does
样的，
not
对吧？
have any
如果有众生
hindrance
呢，就是这样说啊，
of
就是
giving
佛
the
为这
teaching,
个
and we
僧文
definitely
先说的这些经
also
典呢，
long for that kind
就
of power
是
as well.
就佛为这
The
个就僧文
And
先
to
说的这
continue,
些
it
经
says
典
that
呢，
suppose
诸
there
菩
are
萨呢
sentient
就是
beings
不能
that
这
say
个学
these
习，
words.
也不能听
Bodhisattvas
说。
should
那
not
么
hear,
这个呢，
study,
就是
or
对
accept
他
the
来讲是
sutras
不是正
the
法，
Buddha
不
has
是正法啊，就
has
是
has
次呢，就是
pronounced
是
for
不是
the
这个正
voice
道啊，
hearers.
就不是正法，不是正道。
These are not
如
the
果这
true
样说的话，
Dharma,
这是犯
nor
法，
the
就是
right
这个还
path.
是有的。
If
有的人就
there
要
are
注意
people
啊，
who
就
says
是因为
that, then
佛
this
陀
is
给僧
slandering
文
the
法，我
Dharma.
们经常
We
讲
should
的
be
对小
very
乘
careful
所
of
说的这些
this.
经典呢，对小乘所说的
Whenever
经
we
典的话呢，
hear
大乘人不能学，不能听，不能那个学。对大乘而言是这不是正法，不是正道。我们经
whenever
常
we
可
hear
能会
people
说
saying
的
that, well, this is a
这是
teaching
声闻
that the
乘的，
Buddha
就是
gave
不要
to
你
the
们去学，我们是大乘的，
Hinayanas,
我们是
the
藏传佛
Hinayana
教，就这
practitioners,
些
but
是
we're
他们是
Mahayana
这个声闻乘
practitioners,
的，
we're
南传佛
Tibetan
教的声闻乘
Buddhists,
的，这些是
but
不
they
是我
are
们的法
voice
门。
hearers,
如
they
果这
are
样说的话呢，
Hinayanas,
这
they're
也
the
是一种谤法的。
they're
然而对
the
毗支佛的法呢，就是也不能学
the
啊，
the
不能
Buddha
听，
the Buddha
就
Dharma
这不
that's
是正法，
passed
这不
to
是
the
正道，
Southern
这
tradition.
样
So
说。
this is not
或
the
者
Dharma
反
that
过
we
来
should
说呢，就
study.
是诸菩萨的这
Indeed,
些
that
所
is
修的法呢，
not
声闻
the
人啊，就是
appropriate
菩
way
萨
of
所
saying
修
the
行的
Dharma.
法，
That
就
is
是他这个
because that is
所修
considered
行
as
上面是所
the
降伏的法。
slandering the
如果
Dharma.
声闻之人呢，就是不应该学，不应该听说。
Nor should
同样
Bodhisattvas
的道
study
理，就
the
是毗支
to
佛
the
的这个法
Pratika
呢，就是也
Buddha
是不
Dharma.
应该就是声
Suppose
闻
they
学，
also say
或者
voice
说是毗
hearers
支
should
佛呢，
not
就是
hear or
也不应
accept
该
the
学那
dharmas
个
that Bodhisattvas
这个
practice,
毗
nor
支
should
佛
voice
毗支
hearers
佛
hear or
什么
accept the
毗
Pratika
支
Buddha's
佛法
Dharma.
也复入世，就是或者是毗支佛智人。 毗支佛法的话，前面有一个毗支，其实这个可能是不是毗支佛人？毗支佛智人的话呢，就是也一样的，就是对菩萨的这个法呢，就是不应该听，不应该学，不应
Basically
该
means
接
that
受，
nor
这
should
这不
voice
是
hearers
正
hear
道，
or
这个是
accept the
一个
Pratika
方面。
Buddha's Dharma.
还有呢，说是诸
So
菩
that's
萨
one
自己所学
aspect.
的这些
And
所做
then
的法，就是
to
前面是所
continue,
学习
suppose
的。
they also
这里
say
是所
whatever
做的法呢，
Bodhisattvas
声闻
had
和
to
毗
say.
支佛呢，不应该听说，不应
Voice
该学。
hearers and
如果
Pratika
这样的
Buddhas
话，那
should
就是
not
彼此
hear or
言行
accept.
跟
If
跟相违
one
背
were to
啊，
say
就是这
that,
样
their
的。
contradictory
学大
words
乘的人
and actions
归根
are
结底
not
就是这
in
个意思。
accord with
大
the
乘
sutras.
学习的人呢，不要看学习，不要听啊，就是我们有些人可能会说啊，我要去什么这
Well,
个斯
some
里兰
people
卡就
may
学一段的话呢，有
say
些法
that,
师
well,
你不要去
I
学啊，
am
你
going
这
to
是南
study
传佛教，
in
你
Sri
不要去学，
Sri
不能
Lanka
去
for
的
a
啊，
while.
就是我们是
And
大
some
乘
Dharma
佛法，是
teachers
大
may say,
乘佛
don't
教。
go.
就
That is
那这样的话呢，就
Hinayana
是他这
teachings.
个也
Don't
是
go
是
and don't
谤法，
study.
就是
We're
谤
Mahayana.
谤
We're
谤。
Tibetan
如果是你是
Buddhism.
一个就是
That
南
is
传佛教，
considered
或者
as
是你是一个
slandering the
相
Dharma.
乘的话呢，
But
就
if
某个地方
you
有什么
were
这个求离法的讲法
Theravada
的，哇，你
tradition
不要去，
Buddhism,
不要去，那个地方是违
Buddhist
法，那个地方是限制
or
那就去的话没有意义
Shravaka
的话，这也是谤法的。
vehicle
所以
voice
这个
hearer,
就
and
是不与
if
这个
someone
修
says
道
that
路
there
相应
are
啊，就是
people
对
who
我
are
们的
going
这个
to
法，佛
study
法呢就是
the
不相应的。
Mantrayana
就是
teachings
以如
to
是说
seek
和
for
正戒
Mahayana
佛法呢，
teachings,
就
and
不
if you
能
were to
信
say
服。
don't
如果这样
don't
的
go,
话呢，
don't go,
那就是
then
佛
that
陀的
is
这个
also
真实与
slandering
跟
the
戒佛
Dharma.
法呢，就是不能相应的，不
To
能信服的。
continue,
一必法
they're
则呢，就是不得胜天，何况
they're
呢，就是
unable to
获得解
believe
脱啊。
and
就那
accept
这
either
样
the
的话
true
呢，
Dharma
就是因为他
of
就谤了这个
liberation
法，
or
谤了这
words
个法的话
that
呢，
are in
那就
accord with the true
就连这个
reality.
三区的就
Because
不能
once
转生的，更何况说是获得解脱呢，就不行的
then
啊，
the
就是做不
followers
到的。
of their ways cannot even be reborn in heaven or in good realms, much less achieve liberation.
下去吗？也可以再下去。
Let's continue a
然后
little
佛陀
more.
告诉这个弥勒，
And then the
就是
Buddha
说是
continued
我
to
说的
say,
法呢，就是随着这个
Ajita,
心性而
according
跳
to
步
their
啊，
faith,
这些众
I
生
have
恒河
expounded
沙
the
数
Dharma
啊，如
too,
果
and
没有
tamed
心
as
性的话
many
呢，就是
sentient
你
beings
没
at the
必要去给
sands
他
of
们
the
就是讲
Ganges.
啊，就是有了这个心
So
性
if you
以后
don't have faith, you don't necessarily have to give them teachings, but once they have faith, then the sentient beings can be tamed. There are beings as there are as many sentient beings as the sands of Ganges River, such as the Rakshas and the Nagas and Rakshas. all of those you can give them teachings as long as they have faith. According to the sutra, especially Parinirvana Sutra, where he talked about there are 5 sentient beings to whom you are not supposed to give the Dharma teachings, such as the ones who do not take delight in the Vinaya teachings. You should not talk about the merit of Vinaya. And to the ones who do not like to listen to the teachings, then you should not give them teachings of the merits of listening to the Dharma. The ones who do not like teachings of the 3 jewels, then you should not talk about the merits of the 3 jewels. According to the wonderful vows of Bodhisattva Sutra, it says that the ones who do not have faith, you should not give them teachings. To the ones who do not, who have not developed renunciation, you should not give them teachings. And to the ones who have not, to the ones who are looking for mistakes in you, you should not give them teachings. This is quite important. And the Buddha continued to say that Ajita, even now, I want to go to worlds in the 10 directions to expound the Dharma suitably to sentient beings for their benefits. It is not for those who are not bodhisattvas, but disguised as bodhisattvas. So there are beings, you should not give them teachings. Or originally, you should give the teachings to as many beings as possible, but there are beings you should not give teachings, such as who are not bodhisattvas, but disguised as bodhisattvas or proclaimed that they are bodhisattvas. There are people who would say that, well, I have some special spiritual power. I have lots of spiritual power. I have those spiritual penetrations. All of those, I dreamt of so-and-so. And for those people who claim that they have clairvoyance, I don't think you should give teachings to them anymore. You should not include them in your class. So that's the first type. And the second type is that nor is it for the evil, deceitful ones who, having heard little of the Dharma, talk about doubt about my Dharma. And people who do not understand the Dharma, they only understand the Dharma from the other way around. They don't understand the Dharma as it is. And the ones who deceive the others and who manipulate the others, and for those kind of people, you should not give teachings to them either. Those are the 2 types of people. Because these kind of people would be very deceitful, and they would manipulate sentient beings even without knowing much about the Dharma. They would say that you should study from this bodhisattva, should not study from the other bodhisattva. They would try to manipulate others with their conceptual ideas. So they come up with their own dualistic ideas and propagate their deceitful ideas. And for these kind of people, they should not be given the Dharma. This is a bit difficult. Sometimes when we feel that we are right, but really maybe we're slandering the Dharma, so we should definitely be very careful with what we say. These are the ones who have slandered the 3 jewels, and for those kind of people, they will fall into hell realm, the 3 lower realms after death, and for hundreds and thousands of kalpas will not be able to leave the 3 lower realms. Suppose those people will later be reborn in a poor family, then even receive the prophecy of attaining Buddhahood, then he will eventually attain the Bodhi in an evil world of the 5 turbidities or in the 5 degenerations. Later on, we will also learn that the Buddha himself said that it is because of his past mistake he's born in the time of the 5 degenerations. Sometimes we can see that the Buddha say that he were born in the dark age because of his aspiration, and sometimes he says that it's because of his past mistakes. So just like me, who has realized the Buddha Bodhi in this world of the 5 turbidities, therefore you should here can believe and know that such will be consequences of following the way of evil friends. So even at the time of attaining Buddhahood, if one were too committed to the slandering of the Dharma and so on, the whole environment of attaining Buddhahood would not be very pure. So you should definitely listen to this teaching, and you should know, you should trust and develop faith. All of such kind of consequences are the consequences of following the wrong actions. Because we rely on the wrong friend, then maybe later on we will have obstacles to attain the Buddha, to attain Samyak Sambodhi. So what is slandering the right Dharma? According to the aspiration of being reborn in Pure Land, it also talks quite a bit about what slandering the Dharma is. We can see that there are some teachings that's taught in the Sutra are a little bit different than the ones in the Shastra or in different texts. According to Lamrim, or the ornament of the clear realization, Shastra of clear realization, the explanation also where it quoted from this particular sutra of great retention, though it did not quote from this particular name, because this name, in fact, has a very special way of naming it. Previously, we've already talked about that the translated version by Dharmaraksha is not the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention. That version is even more ancient, is even harder to read. Usually, I think Sui Dynasty and Tang Dynasty is a little bit closer to the language that we use now. It's a little bit easier to understand, such as Kumarajiva's translation is usually a bit more easier to understand. But Dharmaraksha's translation is really difficult to understand. Yesterday, a Kempo gifted me a book, though there are versions online, but it's very difficult for me to read online, so I didn't read much. Anyhow, I think he is already a great translator, considering he's an Indian and translated into the Chinese language. What is his name again? Well, it's a little bit difficult to remember. This Lotawa's name is Vinita Ruchi. So we'll then stop here today.
Chubum Solin Roba Jur